I have a real love for fan works, fan movies, fan animations, fan fiction, fan translations, and most of all, fan games. My introduction to fan games came from the Flash game scene, with various Flash versions of my favorite fighting games. These games were usually toned down and less polished versions of some of my favorite games, but allowed me to get my fighting game fix when I was at school. These games led me down the road to Mugen. I don't remember the first game I played, but I'm sure it was some sort of Street Fighter vs Mortal Kombat crossover. At that time, I didn't think much of the legal repercussions of producing a fan game, or really put much thought into who was producing them. I would just head to download.com and scour the site for something that caught my eye. Eventually, I would discover the game that would really change it all for me, and that was Duel Toys. The premise of the game was you would walk around and challenge people to fight with your toys, and if you won, you would win money, and you could buy new toys, which would then be used in your next battles. The toys were characters from various other fighting games. Now, Duel Toys was a fan game, but it did something that I hadn't seen before, and that was create its own sprites. Not only did it create its own sprites, but it provided you with the Mega Man Battle Network style overworld that you could explore and challenge other fighters. Prior to this, all the fan games that I had played had just reused sprites and tried its best to replicate the mechanics from the game, or in the case of Street Fighter vs Mortal Kombat, try to find a way to combine the various elements and mechanics together. But this game was something new entirely, and it took something familiar to me and found a way to make it new. After this, I was introduced to Beats of Rage on my original Xbox, which took Kings of Fighters characters and placed them into a beat-em-up style game, which was definitely fun and one of my favorite fan games, but I needed something new. That's where I found Halo Zero, which was sort of a demake of the original Halo game. I enjoyed the original Halo, and had honestly never heard of the concept of a demake before playing this game. My mind went crazy afterwards, because I imagined all the other games that could be demade, and how it would change the mechanics going from 3D to 2D. So enter in Codename Gordon, which is probably my favorite demake ever made. The graphics were awesome, and it felt like Half-Life, and it took some of the information that we knew about Half-Life 2 and put that in the game before Half-Life 2 was actually released. I'm not sure how much of a fan game it truly is, since it was technically on Steam, and as far as I know, the game was made with Valve's blessings, but I'm pretty sure no actual development assistance from Valve was actually given. Super Mario War on the original Xbox was another favorite of mine. The game used official Mario sprites, but it's anything but a traditional Mario game. The goal of the game is to kill the other players, and it features a bunch of game modes. I haven't played it in years, but it appears that it's still updated and supported, so I'm sure there's much more content added to the game since I last played probably over a decade ago. My two favorite series of fan games are Mega Man and Sonic. Both Capcom and Sega seem to be very supportive of their fan communities, with Sega actually getting the team behind various fan games to create Sonic Mania, and Capcom promoting Street Fighter X Mega Man almost as an official release during Mega Man's 25th anniversary. On that other hand, Nintendo is notorious for killing fan games. I cannot count the number of cease and desists they have issued, between all the various Pokemon fan games, Mario games, and of course AM2R. AM2R is probably the greatest fan game ever made. It's not my favorite, but from a technical standpoint, I don't really think there's much that can beat it. Not only is it a remake of what I consider the worst Metroid game, but they remade the game into a great experience. The original game was hindered by the small screen of the Game Boy, lack of color, and lack of power. AM2R doesn't only fix this by updating the graphics and putting the game on more powerful hardware, but it also adds new content in the form of abilities, bosses, and various quality of life improvements. It's an amazing game, and if you haven't played it, you're really missing out. There are many other great fan games as well, such as Doom Roguelike, which completely transforms Doom and makes the roguelike genre a bit more eventful. Mega Man Maker took the Mario Maker formula and applied it to the Blue Bomber, something I wish Capcom would have done. Then we have A Legend of a Princess, which is a very fun platformer, obviously based around the Legend of Zelda games. There's also a ton of amazing Castlevania fan games, but Silver Knight Crusaders is probably my favorite. Mario and the Rainbow Stars looks like everything I've ever wanted from a 2D Mario game. Psycho Waluigi might be the Waluigi game you never knew that you wanted. Then there's Super Cosplay War Ultra, which is my favorite fighting fan game. Sonic Galactic, and a ton of other great Sonic fan games. Don't miss out on that scene, it's awesome. And last, but definitely not least, Abobo's Big Adventure, which is truly a Newgrounds fan letter to the NES. I've never personally made a fan game, but I do have plans for one. I'll never speak those plans out loud, and I doubt that I would ever discuss them publicly or release a build prior to the game being completed. There's just too much risk. Fan games are a true labor of love, but that love is usually not appreciated by major studios and publishers. Yes, some don't mind and even encourage fan games, such as Sega with Sonic and Capcom with Mega Man. But others are not always so happy. In spite of this, I encourage more game dev hobbyists to continue to create their fan games. But in certain cases, just be a bit more quiet until those games are completed, especially if you're going to be fighting cease and desist. Well, that's it for today, everyone. Thank you for watching, and thanks for your time.